All right, let's do this again. Welcome everybody to day two. So thrilled that you all are here. So today we're going to be talking with Tammy Fellows, who is here. We're going to be talking about your inner journey. And so a lot of you have been through maybe trauma in the past or a challenge, a health challenge, right, that have really shaped you. If you were in our VIP session yesterday, we talked about Jenny talked about some trauma that or the childhood loss that she had, a child that she lost. I have also lost a child. Susie, our guest yesterday, had a husband who died of brain cancer. Right? How many of you here have had something pretty awful, it's tough happen to you, right? So a lot of people get caught up in the idea that I want to write a book about that, or I'm supposed to write a book about that. And in my experience, what actually happens is that shaped who you are and what you're passionate about. And it's the book that you're supposed to write is who you become and what you're doing because of that, right? And so that situation becomes the opening story of the book that really serves your audience and how you're meant to show up and serve the people, right? So whenever someone talks to me about they're like, I want to write a memoir. My first caution for people that want to write a memoir or talk about a whole book, and this is a good example. I have this woman, Lisa. She will joke about it now. So Lisa's one of our authors. Lisa came to me. She already had 97 pages of her book done. She said, I'm writing a book about my hip surgery. She's a fitness trainer. She actually was a professional opera singer at one point. She was a prosecutor inside of the New York court system. And then she became a personal trainer. And she was wanting to write a book about her. Well, she had 97 pages of her book about her hip surgery already done. And she said, and I said, told her about our process. And she said, okay, I'm going to sign with you, but you got to know, I'm writing about our hip surgery, my hip surgery. That's the book. And I'm like, okay, knowing full well, as soon as she got into the process, we were not going to write her book on hip surgery. She'd be throwing that content out. So she gets in, and within 20 minutes of going through the process of starting to identify who her ideal audience is and what the book they want to read, she realized, oh, I'm not writing about my hip surgery, am I? I'm like, no. It may be a chapter in your book. She ended up writing this beautiful book about her theory about, it's called Yes. And she's branded herself now as Yes Coach Lisa. But it's Do, Commit, Live, or something like that is her book title. And the hip surgery story didn't show up anywhere in the final book, which is funny. She never tells the hip surgery story now. But it was the period of being in the hospital where she began to become more focused on her health and began to be more aware of her own limiting beliefs and the decisions she had to make about where her life was headed moving forward. So that's what today's topic is really about. We're going to learn more about Tammy Fellows and what has happened in her life and how that's shaped her passions. But before we do that, what I want to do is just show you our journey map and our success path on what we take clients for. So before I ask, is that okay with you if I share a little bit about how we work with our clients, because you're going to meet on this journey. Yesterday, you met two finished published authors. I'd like to show you where Tammy is on this journey. So if that's okay, thank you. Wave your hand. All right, thank you. All right, cool. I just want to presume you're here for some information. By the way, we should do this before we do it. Those of you that are in our VIP group, this is where there's a replay you've got in your email. This is where your replays for. The reason I'm showing this is all the people in the VIP group, you're also getting this really cool workbook. So you get the replays from every day. And then here's the workbook with some more help for today. So there you go. If you're in our VIP group, if you're not, you need to be in the VIP group because that's where the action's happening and you'll get the replays from yesterday. Okay, so let's get you back to this. Where am I at? Oh, I want to show you our journey. Here we go. This. Okay, so this is the success path that we take all of our authors through when they work with us. And so the first piece that we do is we work on our one-page book plan. And I'm going to zoom in on this just a little bit so you can see this, right? So wait, let me actually back up. Sorry. Hello. Got to get my Zoom controls out of the way. So we divide the whole process. Let me just take you on a whole journey here. Sorry. Into 4 phases. There's the planning phase, then the write phase, and then the publish and the promote phase. And phase 3 and 4 are really concurrently happening. We're getting ready for the launch while Kim, who's on here, is our project manager, right? So she's preparing all the book and materials for you to get ready for publishing, while you are focused on preparing for your launch and your team and everything else. And so those are the 4 phases. On average, our clients take about 6 to 9 months to go through this, right? And so 97% of our authors write and publish their book in 1 year or less, which it's unheard of in the industry that we have a success rate like we do. And it's because we have a proven process after working with a whole lot of one-on-one clients that we know what you need and where you're going to need it. So the first step is this business strategy piece. You're experiencing a little bit of it now. This is what we're going to work on in the 1-page book plan workshop that we're talking about. So the whole culmination of this event is to invite you to join us either virtually next week or live in Scottsdale on September 27th. And if somebody wants to drop that in the chat on my team, that link again, you can learn more about it. But the business strategy is the key. It's where we're looking for alignment between what you want out of your life and business, what your audience wants, and what you need your book to do for you. So when we get all of those 9 decisions together, we've got alignment, and now we know your book is going to work. So that's what this phase is for. Then we take people through, we work on your cover design, we help you come up with an outline that's going to convert for you or serve your audience best, right? We then set goals, and you meet with Kim, who's your project manager. Kim's going to hold your hand through this whole thing, right? And so Kim helps you set goals. Her role is then to make sure every member of our team is where you need them when you need them. So there are about 11 people involved in this process as you move through the rest of this. And so Kim makes sure that you're only focused on what you need to worry about right now. Like, you're not worried about details of editors and things like that. You don't need to worry about that. So that's her role. You're going to meet tomorrow Dina. So Dina is our brand and mindset coach. She's published a book with us. She really understands this process. And she was my actually brand and mindset coach years ago. One of the best mindset coaches I've ever met. And we have Dina meet with our clients because if we don't spend time with you working on your mindset, before you sit down to write, you're going to write from where you've been. And we want you thinking about who you are called to be, where you're headed. And so she has some things that she works on with you so that every time you sit down, you're grounded in who you are and who you're becoming, so that you're writing to your future. As we move into the writing phase, a lot of people say, like, how long does it take to write a book? We say, you know what? Once you got a plan, if you're writing a pace at about a chapter a week, you're doing really great. So that's a general rule of thumb people always want to know about. Your first stop in the writing phase is we want you to meet Michael Haig and get help with your opening story. So Michael Haig is the Hollywood storytelling coach. You guys, this guy, he's amazing. He's been a very good friend of mine. Michael worked with Will Smith and Jada for 7 years. He sat in their dining room for hours working on movies, including Hitch and Karate Kid. Like, he's just brilliant. Russell Brunson always also worked with him to learn how to tell stories. If you read Russell Brunson's New York Times bestseller, or maybe it's not a New York Times, it may only be a Wall Street Journal. He's got a book called Expert Secrets, and he talks about Michael Haig in the book. So you get to work, with Michael Haig on figuring out what's the opening story, because it's so important to your book. We have editor check-ins because we don't believe you should write alone, right? And we do a proofread. I always tell people the day you move into proofreading, you're 90 days from launch. Right. And so once your book's at proofread, your work there is done. We have you shift getting ready for launch, getting your website, your social media, everything ready. Well, Kim's helping take care of all the details that you don't need to worry about. Like, we set up all your printer accounts, you take care of the design and all of those details. And we put all of these in your name. We are a self-publishing agency, which means you're going to own your book. You're going to own all your rights. You're going to own all your own accounts. You're going to buy direct from the printer at the same price I would buy your book. So you're not paying me a penny for any book that you're buying from a printer or you're selling on Amazon. I believe that's really important for business owners, that they own everything. We did this video with Ed Rush last week. Some of you were on it. Ed Rush said he wouldn't, at this point, he said definitely, he would not take a $30,000 check for somebody to write, to pay him for the owner rights to God Talks, right, to own the accounts for God Talks. And then he later said, he'd think long and hard if he was holding a $10 million check, that he's not sure he would give somebody else the rights to own the publishing agreement for God Talks. Owning your own rights is really important and valuable. And so we just take care of that for you so that as a business leader, you're focused on the launch, right? And what you need to do to announce your book to the world and have it born. So is that helpful? You like seeing that journey thing? Okay. So let's bring up Tammy. I'm going to let's spotlight me and then I'm going to spotlight you first, Tammy. Where'd you go? How did I lose you? Does anybody see? There you are. I got you. Sorry. There you are. And then I'll spotlight me. Okay. Thank you, Tammy, for joining us.
It's my pleasure.
Let's talk about this idea of the inner journey. And to cue that up, what I just showed you a minute ago is the outer journey, right? That is the logistics journey of how you write a book. But what's more important to me as a business and marketing strategist when I work with clients is really helping you through this inner journey of who you are and who you're becoming and what's possible for you. And Tammy's right at that phase in her own book journey. So let's talk about kind of what you're dreaming about now. We'll work backwards. We'll talk about, some of you, the experiences that brought you, why you're passionate about this topic. But let's just talk about like where you are, like the nervous energy, if you will, the ideas that are kind of flying through your head. What are you thinking about as you get ready to write a book and what you want to do with this when you move through this process?
Well, it's like you were just talking about earlier today on the VIP session and how important it is to first, you have to look at what journey am I on? What things do I gravitate to in my own journey, content, books, all of that. Because really, at the end of the day, you're looking at who is it that I'm trying to reach? Who is my audience, right? Who is this going to? Who's going to care about this book? And at the end of the day, for myself, it comes down to I want to reach me before I got to here. So that was the biggest awareness that I first had around the idea of writing a book, because I started reading as I started my journey, my inner journey, as you say. I started to just consume so much, and I love to read, but I was reading books that were, not simple concepts. And what I started to realize was I was on this path of really being able to dive into these things and start to put them to practice in my life. And it's gotten me to where I am today. So that's really the first piece, really, is looking at why am I doing this? Who am I trying to reach? And where's it going to go? What's the future of it? Excuse me. So that's kind of where it all began with me. And it's funny because when you and I met, we met through Dina, who will speak tomorrow. And Dina also was a mindset coach for me in my previous business, because I have been an entrepreneur for most of my life and had turned into a massive workaholic, where I was completely not in my joy anymore. And that awareness is really a lot of what culminated and started my shift into where I am today. So I know that those are the people that I will definitely reach, because I've been there. I know what that feels like and how to get to a better place.
Yeah. So yesterday we talked about bold mission and vision, and we've been talking about yours. What would you love to see? Like, how big are you dreaming from out of this book outcome, and what you want to do?
Big. So the thing that I love about you, Nicole, and Ed Rush, I coach with Ed Rush too. And as an entrepreneur and somebody who doesn't do things on a small scale, I do things always on a big scale. I just now know how to do them from a better place. But the mission of who I am has not changed. So when you ask me how big is this, my goal is to create a movement, a world movement. So, and that's big. You're talking about affecting the world. So one of the first questions in the process, which I fully trust because you have such a beautiful process in doing this, is that you ask, what is it that you're trying to do? What is your mission here? And the mission is to have an impact on the world. Okay, so who's your target audience? And your first answer is, when you're doing something like that, well, it's everybody, because I want to affect the world, right? I want to change the world. I want to make a movement. That's a big thing to accomplish. But when it comes down to it, it is possible for all people. It just depends on where people are on their path. So for me, I'm realizing that my goal, which I think is very realistic, is I want to change and impact people. I want to at least 1 million people with my message. And to me, that's a movement. That's a great movement. I'll take it.
Yeah, fantastic vision. And it's very exciting. So let's talk about why. Let's go back and we talk, so Tammy and I are going through the process of the one-page book plan, and we're doing that one-on-one. And so we started with our mission and our ideal client, and then we're starting to look at, well, what, getting clarity on what are the pains and the beliefs of her ideal client. And then we're weighing that against possible ways that she might want to build her business, which is her offers, right? And what's scalable for her, what kind of lifestyle that she wants to live. But as we're doing that, we're also then looking at, like, where do we start the book? And we're talking about your opening story, because you actually had there are three possible places that we could start your story. Which one would you like to share with this group today?
You pick.
Okay. The one that I loved, wow, just totally escaped me, is the memory loss story, right? That's the moment that you knew you probably had a serious problem.
Yeah. So, in a nutshell, as a person who was extremely driven and goal oriented and had to check all the boxes and climb all the ladders and do all the things for all the wrong reasons, I started to experience memory loss. And that may sound minor to some people. Okay, well, yeah, we can, what does that mean? For me, it literally meant that I was at a point of such exhaustion that my brain would no longer retain simple things. Like it would be a Monday and someone would ask me, "Oh, what'd you do this weekend?" And I would say, literally, I would try to call up anything and nothing was there. I mean, it was like a blank slate. And when I started to realize this kept happening over and over, I mean, I'd be in a conversation and I would make something up because I was embarrassed that I couldn't come up with anything. And I have a really busy life. I've got 4 children. I'm married. I was running multiple businesses. I mean, I had a lot going on. So it's not like I wasn't doing anything. I was doing a ton. Problem is I was doing too much. But what started to happen was I started to realize that something was really going on. And so I was sharing this with my family, my mom and sister specifically one day. And I said, I literally cannot remember the weekend before on a Monday morning what I did for the whole weekend. My husband was getting worried. I was definitely worried. I thought I was getting an early onset of Alzheimer's, and I'm a young, healthy person. So that didn't make sense. And I thought, I don't know what's going on. Well, my family, my sister and mother looked at me and said, "Tammy, you do so much every day. Your days are jam-packed between your family, your businesses, all your hobbies, everything you love to do and have to do, that you just don't have any space left in your mind. So have you ever thought about meditating?" And at the time when I heard that word, I was like, that's a really great theory. That's a thought. I get where you're going with this. They said, "No, really, have you ever really done it? Do you even know what it is?" I said, "Well, I have some concept of it, but that doesn't exist in my world. My mind is too loud." And back then, my thought of meditation was you can have no thoughts. That's also a misnomer. That's not correct. But at the time, that's what I thought. And I thought, well, that's impossible. I can't have no thoughts when there's so many in my mind. So I was desperate. And I thought, and again, I'm a box checker and a goal setter. So I thought, well, you know what? I'm desperate. I'll try anything. So that next Monday, it was a weekend that I was sitting with them, I made the promise to myself that I would do this. And so I downloaded an app and I started with a 10-minute guided meditation to just quiet my mind and start my day, because my quiet time's in the morning before my whole household wakes up. And that very day, I received so much clarity, and it turned me into a whole new awareness of where I was going. So it was just that shift in awareness of the fact that I really was too loud and I was not going within. I was completely forgetting myself. And that's what turned everything on, and everything changed from that day forward.
Mhm.
So that was
And
a huge,
so how long ago was that?
that was in 2021, the very beginning of 2021.
So 3 years ago. Talk about what this is, and I'm sure people are asking, what's Tammy Tuesday?
So in my journey, before this whole thing that I tackled with meditation, and I know that word freaks a lot of people out. I don't want people to cringe when they hear that word because it can mean a lot of different things. Kind of like when people use the word God, source, universe. There's lots of words for lots of things. I use the word meditation because that resonates with me. But it could be prayer. It can be connecting with God. It can be whatever it is. God talks like at Rush. But what I realized that it was time for me to start digging in. I totally lost my train of thought. What was your question?
Tammy Tuesday.
Tammy Tuesday. So what started to happen was I was in my business and I became so inundated in 2020 with the crisis that was happening everywhere that I completely neglected myself. And that was part of what led to my memory loss because I was so full of everybody else's stuff and I was completely forgetting myself. So what happened was I finally said, this was part of the whole memory loss. It's like, okay, that's it. I've got to take some time for myself. I've got to create something back for me. I mean, I need to feed myself back. I got to put my oxygen mask on, right? So I can help everybody else because I was serving nobody at that point. And so I said, okay, I need to find a day of the week that makes sense where I can carve some time out for myself to refuel, to replenish, to take a breath. And so I looked at my calendar and Tuesdays were a day out of the week that made sense. And I thought, okay, I could take some time on Tuesdays. And I thought, oh, that's kind of funny. I could call it Tammy Tuesday, right? My name is Tammy Tuesday, cute little ring. And the only reason I said that at that time was because I wanted to start sharing it with my friends and family. And the main reason was because I wanted to be held accountable for what I was doing because they knew what a workaholic I was and that I was so driven that I would not stick with it. So I was sharing it with everybody that I knew. I'm claiming this day. It's Tammy Tuesday. My whole family knew. So they knew that Tuesdays were kind of my day for me. And they let me have it and they cheered me on and it was great. Well, then I started making posts about it on social media and I'd call it Tammy Tuesday. And I started getting the response of, well, I want a Tammy Tuesday. And I was like, then take one. Well, I don't have a name that goes with the day of the week. I'm like, that you're missing the point. Take some time for yourself. Do what you need to do for yourself, period. So that's how Tammy Tuesday, the terminology Tammy Tuesday came to be. Well, what happened was my husband, who happens to be a muse of mine for many things that I do and has vision and things that I don't necessarily in the beginning. He bought the domain tammytuesday.com seeing that this was going to go somewhere. And I thought, oh my gosh, seriously, this is just for me. This is not, has nothing to do with the world out there. This is truly for me. And he's like, no, something's going to happen. I can see something coming with this. And I said, okay, well, that's great, but I have nowhere. So at the time I just directed my other business to the website. Well, fast forward, once I sold my other business, which I knew was time to move to something different because my whole purpose started to surface in this whole experience. And I sold my other business. I thought, okay, it's time to launch something new. And what was happening in my previous business was that I was meeting all these amazing and incredible people. I own two local luxury magazines. And I was having these amazing conversations with people. And I'd be sitting across the table from somebody and I never knew what was going to happen. But usually what happened was we'd have this beautiful connection of sharing and exchange of life stories and inspiration. And it would move us to tears. And I would come home and I would tell my husband, oh my gosh, you can't believe these people that I'm meeting. They're just so incredible. Because the truth is everybody has an amazing story. And this is what I was learning in this beautiful business that I was blessed with that was taking me down. But what happened was I thought, okay, well, this platform, these magazines are not the platform for these stories of these people and sharing this stuff with the world. Because if it's moving me to tears and inspiring me to do better for myself and for the world, everybody needs to know this stuff. So I need a bigger platform. So I said, okay, well, what's a bigger platform? And then I started thinking about podcasting. I'm not a podcast person. I really never listened to podcasts ever at that point. And I thought, well, that's a way to really get the message out there to a lot of people. So I decided, well, what the heck it's like, okay, it's time to build this podcast. I have, 200 people on my list that I know I want to interview on my podcast. And what am I going to call it? Well, I was like, well, I guess it's going to be Tammy Tuesday. So that's how Tammy Tuesday was born. And I started my podcast in January of this year. And I love every minute of it. And I have these amazing conversations that I was having privately across the table from somebody. And now they're being shared with the world to help inspire and move people to purpose. And it's called Tammy Tuesday Life, Love, Purpose. And that's what we talk about. And so that's how Tammy Tuesday was born. So that's what Tammy Tuesday is in a nutshell.
Nice. Um, questions, like if you guys have questions for her, please drop them in the chat. And John says he's ready to buy that book. Talked about earlier, so you've got your first fan right there, which is so fun. Thank you. Um, Marilyn says thank you, thank you. Yeah, I see a lot of people nodding and resonating with your story. A lot of type A's in the room, overachieving. Tammy and I have been having really great conversations because I think a lot of people really resonate with this message. I know I do, learning to balance my growing business. I love what I do, but also realizing the importance of her message and of slowing down and finding balance. So I want to go back to the key thing is Tammy could write a memoir, right? She could write about her story and what happened to her, and that would be great all for Tammy. But what she's doing is she's saying, how did what happened to me create what I want to help change the world with instead? And now she's writing the book, and we're exploring the idea, how do I change the world using what I've learned? And it's a different approach. And then the question is, well, what are your offers? What do you want them to be? And how do we shape that? But she's at the beginning of a key process, which is getting that clarity on a message. And that's, I think, what's so important. Like, Tammy, like, what kind of clarity have you already had on your message from, you've had the podcast and then this process we're having now? Like, what are you finding about your message in this process that's changing how you share it and what you focus on?
Well, the coolest thing is that I'm living it and I'm experiencing it and I'm having tremendous self growth. And just like most people, when you experience incredible, beautiful changes in your own world and in your own life, you naturally want to share it with people because you want it for everyone. And so for me, what am I starting to notice? I'm starting to notice that I feel better, that I am happier, that the adversities that constantly come at us in this world, which will never stop, they pass quicker. I'm less stressed. I'm understanding things from a different perspective. I've had a complete perspective shift on so many things. I'm more caring and loving and compassionate to myself, to others. And to me, that is what our world needs. What the premise of my message and self growth has been, this isn't a self help book. This is a book about self love. This is how to remember how to love yourself first. And that was where Tammy Tuesday was born. Tammy Tuesday was Tammy choosing Tammy. The funny thing is, it has nothing to do with the name Tammy or the day of the week. It really doesn't. It has all to do with the fact that Tammy chose Tammy. And then all of these things started to blossom and my life started to shift. And I started to see things differently. And I started to have new awarenesses of where I'm going and what my potentials are. And things started to manifest in my life. And I started to experience love and joy and peace. And it made me look back to my previous self and say, well, I know too much now. I can't go back there. So to me, I'm looking at people that I think can relate to, either they've been there and they're already shifting, or they're there and they're like, how do I get here? So it's really the whole evolution. So really the biggest thing I would say is I'm living it and it's evolving every day. It's not like there's an end cap. It's continuing to go, which is funny because Nicole and I have talked about this. As you start this process of writing a book, it's so true when you say, I want to write a book about my experience, because you want to share, again, you want to share your story, right? How you've evolved, how you've grown. But the truth is, if you really want to help people or send a message or create a message or a movement or whatever it is, you want to share how do you get there? What does it look like? How do you evolve? So for me in this process, it's become very clear that this is just book one of many that will come, because this is a lifelong journey for me. And I'm never going to stop. I'm a forever life student of life. And I want to continue to grow and continue to evolve. And so when you talk about things like offers, it's funny because in my mind, it's like, I just want to be happy, right? I just want to share the message. But I really honestly know that it's already evolving. I already have people saying, I want you to coach me. I want to talk to you. How do you do this? What does this look like? How do I implement this? So things are naturally evolving in that way. I have this podcast that just kind of was just a way to just express. This book is another way to express, But what's starting to happen is these offers are starting to become real, like stages. You've talked about stages and speaking and sharing and expressing these concepts and these ideas and these changes that we can all experience. So for me, it's this ever evolving. What does that look like? Well, to me, it looks like me on a stage. It looks like me sharing and speaking and having people have life changing experiences that we all get to experience together because we're sharing it together in a room, or they're learning it through their own self practices. And those are things that I've guided them to get to. So it just is, the process is key. And I remember when I first met Nicole, she said, you need to trust the process. And I've come a long way in my entrepreneur goal setting life to realize that I am not in charge. I need to let this just flow and evolve. And that is what this process is too. So if you can trust that, you'll have a beautiful experience, and exactly what's intended to go out there to the world is what will be delivered.
Cool. So here's what I want to do. Jenny Ray, you had a question yesterday. I want to bring you up in just a second because you've got some questions related to this from VIP, and I thought maybe we just bring you in and talk that out in just a second. So I'll give you a minute to think about what your questions for Tammy and I might be related to that. Is that okay with you? Cool, thanks. The first thing I thought might be helpful to all of you is to understand what I'm thinking about as I hear Tammy go through this journey, right? So today's theme again is kind of the inner journey. And what I'm thinking about as her coach in this process is I'm listening for key words. And I'm also then helping her think about like, well, how do you what's now coming intuitive, like we're talking about from the span, there's another incident that happened to her. So we're really looking at a span of like what 6 to 8, what was it, 6 years of this journey for you?
Oh,
Is that
no, it's been longer than that. I would say like 10 to 12 years.
okay? 10 to 12 years. Thank you. So I'm listening, like, how do we start to systemize that? So all the things that she's been through, what we have to do is turn that into a process that's duplicatable for the readers, right? And for her clients. And so I'm listening for, well, what are the key elements? Like, how do we organize that into a 7-step process or a framework? What is her unique way of delivering that? And then we're also going through this process as we meet, and we're like, what do people have to know or believe first before we can teach them something second? So, what do they need to understand? Like, if for those of you who are here because of Ed Rush and his God Talks book, because a lot of you are, he had to teach in his book the idea of how the brain works first, and the difference between the conscious, the superconscious, and the subconscious, right? So there are things that Tammy will need to teach and share. She heard her talk about the word meditation and how for some people that may not work for them and other people that does, and God and all those things. So as we're looking at the book and how she's going to position all these things, those are all the factors that we're weighing in and trying to decide then, well, then what order do we want to put it together? And that's what the one-page book plan process is designed to do. And so she said, just trust the process, right? And so there are 9 questions. And one of the questions is, well, how do we organize this? What's your framework for solving it, right? And we're looking at her offers and we're saying, is meditation part of your offers, right? She doesn't really want one-on-one coaching because that's not scalable and it doesn't fit well with the lifestyle that she's been able to build for herself. So those are all of the things. Does that help you to understand like the way that this process and the things that she's kind of dealing with? Tammy, do you have thoughts on that? You want to comment?
Yeah, it's true. And you ask such great questions. And that's why your process is so valuable, because you ask questions that make you, the writer, think about, what is it that I want? What kind of, I mean, big questions like, what kind of life do I want? What does this look like? What do I want? The thing that's so funny, most people don't even know what they want. So that's something you should really think about as you're going through this process for yourself and self exploration. What do I want? And write a list. In fact, I did this exercise 2 days ago. I was like, I started to literally write down where and the way I frame it is I'm already there. It already exists. I just need to grab it. I just need to I just need to match it and gravitate it to me because that's how this works. That's how I know it works. So when I say things, it's like I need to get real clear on what it is that I want. And it's no different in this process. You need to become very clear with what it is that you're trying to, what is it, like people have said, I've heard in the VIP group earlier, God's telling me I need to write a book. Well, same with me. In my dreams, I've had visions of multiple books. And these are messages that have come from the divine. They really are. These are things that already exist. It's just, are you going to gravitate to them? Are you going to step into them? What is it that you want? Why? Why are you listening? What is your calling? These are things that the more we dive into ourselves, they become much more clear. And so in this process of writing a book, there's something inside of you that is saying, I have to do this because it's bigger than you. We have no idea how big and powerful and what lights we are for this world. And the more we can self examine and tap into that within our own self, the more they ignite, the more they surface, the more they become clear. So you become much more clear with what it is that you do want. And then everything else just comes together when you trust the process. That's just how it works on any journey.
Yeah. All set. Thank you. All right, Jenny Ray, I'm going to bring you up. Thank you. I wouldn't do that. Don't worry. The rest of you in the room like panicking that I might do you. I know Jenny well enough to know you're just fine with this. Yeah. Yeah. So Jenny Ray, please introduce yourself to everybody here and tell them a little bit about you.
Yeah, thank you, Nicole. And thank you, Tammy. I resonate so much with what you were saying. Thank you for sharing your story. It was awesome. So I'm a business and peak performance coach, and I help entrepreneurs really shift untapped potential into next level purpose. And I have a proprietary pathway of how to really get people into peak performance pretty quickly. So removing whatever's blocking their success. And I spent probably the last year and a half, 2 years honing that process, that transformation pathway. I've got about 25 different unique frameworks I've created along that path. So it's really been like now simplifying, like taking it to like what you're saying. I spent a lot of time doing my homework last night and getting some clarity around big vision, mission, and those type things. And so my question yesterday was for you around so we had a son that passed away 16 years ago in a bed that was recalled 6 months later. Like I found him face down in his crib, perfectly healthy. He was our number 3. And so it thrust our family into a complete upside down spiral, and also into the next season of becoming an entrepreneur. You know, I found a lot of life and healing in becoming an entrepreneur, and went on to have another son. So we have 3 this side of heaven. And I was asking Nicole yesterday in the VIP if, I feel like I missed the boat on writing that story. I never did. I have friends, you kind of join a club of people who have lost kids once you've lost one. I have friends who have gone on to write books and stories, and they're on stages, and I'm like, man, I missed that boat. And hearing you yesterday, it's been really exciting because I know that I've been right where I need to be. Like part of my healing and growth process was not stopping, not, I wanted to like get under the covers and curl up and die, but I didn't. I rose up and I figured out a way through it. And that is literally what I've done now. I've created an experience called the Rise Experience. And it shows entrepreneurs that are living life, building their businesses, how to rise up in the face of challenges, how to take dead things and bring new life to them. I mean, it's so much of what you're talking about. And I realized just in just listening and gleaning from you in these last 2 sessions and VIP that it's never been meant to be the story. It's the catalyst of everything I've done and why I do what I do and why I can help people. Literally, I've got a whole process to how to help you rise up in the face of challenges and how to keep rising to your next level anytime you get stuck. And I have so much conviction and confidence around it that it works because I've helped thousands of leaders do it. So it's really exciting. And I'm excited to be here because I feel like as entrepreneurs, we all birth things at different places. Some of us maybe start with a book or the podcast, or for me, I started with actually clarifying my offer suite and getting that really, really dialed in, what my signature offers are, and testing it, getting social proof, all the things for the last several years. And it's like, it's time already. Like, I feel like I've heard you say it takes a year. I literally think I could write this book in like a night. I mean, that's where it's like right here. I know there's a whole process, so I am not diminishing the whole process. I just think it's that Like it's just been here this whole time. And all the work that I've been doing up until now has been so foundational to just birth this thing and like get it out. So I think my question, I'm not exactly sure my question, but I think my question for you would be, I sat with it last night, like what book would I write of those four that you said? There's only really 4 of the 10 that really generate revenue in your business and really grow your business. I've always thought it would be like a signature book. And I think that's what's been holding me back is I want to write that one. I'm working on, my podcast is launching this next month called Run the Play with Jenny Ray. And I have thought that I need that kind of a book to secure the stages and to get the things and like have it all. But I feel like where I'm at, if I'm looking wisely at my business, it's really bringing in clients. And so that niche book is I already got the process. Like, how do you differentiate between which one is the one? Whenever I've got the pieces, I literally just need to put it on paper in the book and run.
Yeah. Okay. So, and that's great. So if you weren't in VIP, Jenny Ray, wait first. Thank you. Everybody, let's give Jenny Ray applause. That's really cool. Thank you for sharing that. I'm going to keep you here for just a second. Because the reason I wanted Jenny Ray to come up today was she was asking this question yesterday. Like I felt like I should have written the story about my son, right? In that book. And a lot of you have that story. I just want to reiterate again that what probably you should write the book about isn't the story, but it's the impact the story had on you that you're ready to share with the world. And that's where the gift, Jenny Ray's gift, is literally, that's what turned her drive into an entrepreneur, right? That's really where she now directs all of her energy. And it's why she's so passionate about helping entrepreneurs and rise above challenges. It's my story as well. So I lost a baby. She lived 12 hours. And I actually went through 3 miscarriages. I don't know if I shared this quickly yesterday, but what was important to me is important to everybody now is very similar to what Tammy's message is, which is I don't like seeing people struggle because I know when you're struggling, your stress levels rise and everything that affects your health. And so similar, the 3 of us are all from a different angle approaching the same problem. Our ideal clients are entrepreneurs who are struggling and they're putting their health at risk, their goals, their family, everything at risk. And we're approaching a solution from a different angle, right? But at the end of the day, it's because all 3 of us had something really hard happen to us. And it's what deep down, it gives meaning to the work that we do and why we've chosen the path that we have. So.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I ended up with fibromyalgia for 2 years. Literally by 28, I didn't think I'd see 30. It hurt to touch my hair, and it was literally just trapped trauma, like just not knowing how to process and get it out. And so I mean, the work that I do with entrepreneurs, so many of them are successful and even have like, they've done some really cool things, but behind the scenes, it's a house of cards and their life's falling apart and they're losing marriages or they're losing their health or other things. And that was my story. Even after building 3 different businesses, this is my 4th. I did 3 through hustle and grind and my life falling apart. And there were so many great things I learned from that. But this one I've learned how to do more with grace and ease and flow and let it like come out of me in such a different way. And so, yeah, it's about rising above and rising in the challenges, but you don't have to do it at the cost of yourself. So I love that we're all 3 saying the same thing, just we're coming at it different ways, which is really powerful, and packaging it different ways, right? You're doing it through a book. I do it through a really powerful 3-day live experience and also like helping people create their offers, like really nitty gritties, create their offers and the pathways and frameworks around it. And so we all do it different ways.
Tammy, you want to comment on that before we?
Yeah.
Anything you want?
Thank you for sharing, Jenny. That's beautiful. And honestly, like you said, our traumas, big or small, they really do block us from our unlimited potential. We feel very limited, and it's a shift in belief that changes everything. And that only comes from within. And when you can tap into that, it changes everything you do, everything in your life, everything in your business, everything you touch, everything. And the people around you. We become lights and beacons for others to gravitate to and say, I want to feel like that. I want to see that. I want to feel that shift. No matter what the trauma is, it's really powerful. And I agree. I think that it all stems down to coming back inside and really living from your heart and living from what is true for you, because we all have our own truth. It's written in our heart. So when you can tap into that, your truth it comes to be when you can trust it.
Yeah. I think, Nicole, one thing that has made me scared, I think, to maybe do a book, if I'm talking about fear, has been the work that I do in that 3 days. I mean, we've had people with master's degrees in counseling come and they say it would take us 3 to 10 years to do what you do in 3 days or less, because we have a process of how we can just break through those blocks so fast. And I think it just comes from my experience and learning how to listen for it. I can hear it. Like, you can talk to me for 20 minutes and I can break through it with you quickly. It's so important, and it feels like so weighty sometimes what we do, that it's like, how do I take that and stick that in a book and do it justice, like not do it a disservice. And I was up like so late last night. I was like, oh my gosh, Nicole, thank you for keeping me awake late at night. But my brain was just churning. It was so exciting to just begin to take my pathway. I just challenged myself to say, how would I do this from stage? If I was to have to, right now, somebody said, I'll give you $1 million to go on stage and do this and get me a result in 45 minutes or less, how could I do it? And I was like, there's my book. Like, that's my book. And so I got so much clarity even last night, which I have one of my first paid speaking engagements, which is my plan for 2024, which is why I want help with this book, is more paid speaking engagements. And I have one in September. I got asked to speak. My ideal client is a female entrepreneur. I do work with men, but man, I got asked to speak to a room of 200 men in sales. They're like, we hear you do like all this emotional intelligence stuff. Will you come help our guys? They're falling apart. And I'm like, okay. So it's just really awesome. But I was like, how am I going to do that in September? And so even just like thinking about this, how I would put this in a book, helped me with that. But I'm like, man, I want to do it I don't want to do it a disservice, I guess is what I'm saying. It's like, how do I take something that feels, and I'm sure maybe Tammy, you feel that way too, is how do you take something that's like so meaningful and you can get such transformation with people and like dumb it down enough to still make it impactful.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's huge. You're on your path. Keep following your path. You're on it.
Yeah.
So Jenny, so a lot of people are listening in are like, Jenny Ray, you need the VIP recording. So she joined us for like the last 5 minutes. I think you're going to find your answer.
Okay.
Yeah. So we went deep dive into the difference between when you might use a signature book. Marilyn was there. She asked that question. And so I did a deep dive into when a signature book publishing strategy versus a niche book.
Perfect.
Those of you that are not in VIP, we are speaking Greek to you. I will touch on that a little bit later, but I go into it in the VIP session, because in the main sessions here, we're more focused on the psychology of becoming an author. But anyway, you're going to love the VIP. And then if you're able to join us live tomorrow, we'll dig into that. You can ask some more questions there, but there's a win on either side. And so we'll talk about that. So thank you for sharing. I'm going to remove spotlight on you. We're running low on time here, so I just want to wrap up with Tammy. I want to remind you, I'll put it in here. So onepagebookplan.com. There we go. So all this week, we're encouraging you to join us. If you want to keep working with me and you want to work on your one-page book plan and get alignment on what book you should write, then check it out, onepagebookplan.com. There are 2 versions of the workshop. So there is one that's happening virtually, and then there's one that we're doing in Scottsdale on September 27th. If you get to come to the Scottsdale one, you'll get to meet Ed Rush, you'll get to meet Tammy, Deborah, and Susie, and Dina, and everybody, because we're going to be in person there. And so definitely more fun to join us in Scottsdale for a day. But the virtual one is also incredibly powerful, right? You don't have to travel. You don't have to bear the time and expense to join that. And we do that over 2 days virtually. So we do it on a Thursday and Friday afternoon. And so we do start Monday. We have a welcome party on Monday where we kick things off with a virtual group. So you do want to check that out and make a decision if you want to join us. You've got all this week to do that, but you need to be in by Monday afternoon so we can get you primed and ready to roll on Thursday and Friday for the virtual version. So Tammy, what's your thoughts on parting words? And hey, let's go back. Like, if anybody's got questions, please drop them in the chat for Tammy or any questions for today. And let's go back to gallery view here in just a second. But Tammy, what are your thoughts for people here on the inner journey work and on the challenges that they're facing as entrepreneurs, as authors? Just share your wisdom. You're brilliant at this.
The biggest thing, and I just said it to Jenny, is trust your path. Things that you have to, like she said, hustle and grind, that's not what's intended for you. It's the things that naturally come to you. Step into that. Like I said, your truth is truly inside of you. and you'll know the difference. So listen to the things that just feel natural and right. That is the direction, that is the path. When you trust that, you will step into your ultimate greatness, period. So trust that, love yourself, give yourself that grace, give yourself that compassion, and trust it, because that's what's right for you. So stay on that path. That's the biggest thing.
Thank you. I'm going to we're going to go back to gallery view here and invite people. We had some beautiful comments. Thank you, Marilyn and Roseanne. Beautiful comments in there. Anybody want to share some questions or takeaway? There's a thing down below where you can raise your hand if you want to hop on and share some thoughts or takeaway for Tammy, for me, for Jenny Ray. You're welcome to do anything, or you can just unmute yourself and contribute. We're a small group. We do this. Gonna have a stare down. Come on, don't be shy. Annie, you're smiling. Give me let me put your spotlight on you.
I guess I was thinking to myself, because I came in late, so I had a prior meeting. First of all, just the background that she has there while she's chilling out at the beach is kind of the look of it. I really love that. It's my vibe too. But one thing I was thinking of, and this is just being super vulnerable because I don't know that it helps not to be, is that Jenny Ray is so accomplished in what she's doing. And there are other people in this group than me that are, not as accomplished in where I'm going. And so I just thought maybe, speaking to that, because I'm just super transparent. It felt a little bit like, I might not be in the right place. And yet at the same time, I totally know I am, because everybody starts somewhere. But that was one of the things that the mental imposter syndrome voice tries to say, you don't belong here. And I know I do.
Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up. All right. Anybody resonate with that? Is that anyone? All right. Yeah. So one of the interesting things that happened to me is when I was at Caterpillar, I managed employee communications and HR strategy. I was the communications manager for 3, they would be called senior vice presidents now, at the same time. And then I left my job to go home, and because we knew that our daughter was going to be born with a rare heart defect and that I would need to take care of her. So I gave up my corporate career to be taken to a hospital to have a controlled birth. She was born full term. And so I let go of my corporate career because I was going to have to take care of her. And she only ended up living 12 hours. She had a rare heart defect and they couldn't save her. And I went to go get a job. And the problem was I had let go at a time there was a hiring freeze and they couldn't bring me back in. And I had to go get a job. And I was going through this period of about 5 months where I didn't feel qualified to work at McDonald's. And it just floored me. And so I have incredible compassion for people that when you just don't feel qualified, because I just left, like I was advising some of the top business people in the world. And then I didn't feel qualified to work at McDonald's. And so one of my favorite phrases is that every 4th grader is a rock star to a 3rd grader, right? So you have solved something that someone else desperately needs and they can't figure out how to solve. So wherever you are on your journey, I was so scared when I did my first books. Like, I have a degree in graphics, y'all. I have just worked really hard. You have to know you can figure this out. I don't have a degree in English. I don't have a degree in marketing. I have a degree in graphics. And I just have had mentors along the way, and I've invested in myself, and I've learned to trust that I will figure anything out. And I also know that there are people here that I can help. And so the biggest thing that has helped me is this idea of letting go of ego. So ego is when you're worried about yourself. And when you let go of it and you just worry about, there are people out there that are staying awake at night because they need to know something right? And you shift the focus off of you. I'll be really honest. I get really nervous before these events. I will get better as the week goes on. Yesterday, I told the team, like, I don't want to see the recording. Do we even have to repost the recordings? Like, I was a hot mess yesterday. And today I'm better. Hopefully you've noticed, like tomorrow, by the end of the week, I will have found my groove again, because I don't do this all of the time. But I just want to encourage you, like, you've solved something, you've been through something, what you've been through and how you've improved yourself. You're not there yet. Oh, we're never there. We're going to keep going, right? But what you know will help somebody else. But it's on you too to get the help to figure out how to define it, right? And how to explain it better so that you really can help people. And that's where, again, if you're in our group, we go through the 10, in the VIP sessions, we went through the 10 mistakes that authors make. And one of them is they write without advisors. Because they, it sounds good in your head, right? And you can also, you can wing it on stage. Like you can wing it in social media, you can wing it on stage. Like Jenny, right? We can get up and any one of us could speak for, 10 minutes. Now, some of you may not want to, right? But when you sit down and you got to write a book and you got to organize your ideas and you got to figure out, well, what do they need to know first before they know this? And then they need to understand this. And like, you have to do that. This is why I love publishing. Like, this is why as a business and marketing strategist, I created a publishing company, because honestly, I just want to help you figure out what your message really is and how to organize it, because that's how you change the world. And if you don't know how to articulate it well, it will keep coming out kind of sloppy. And we want to take the time, get you the help that you need to organize all that so that it's really powerful. And then you really are able to serve people at a better level. So Annie, I'm thrilled that you asked that. And maybe God made me call you out for that very reason. So thank you.
Nicole, can I say something to Annie really fast? Yeah, this is a free one. Annie, first off, I just think, I just want to encourage you. Like, I think we all do this probably to each other. We see people where they're out on their journey and think like, man, they're just so much further than me. I mean, I look at like 10 people a day and I'm like, I feel like I'm so behind and I feel like I haven't got this thing figured out. And it was only a year and a half ago that like it actually got turned into an event for me. And I'm hearing Nicole, I screenshotted your pathway, Nicole, and I'm looking at it like, man, if I'd had Nicole a year and a half ago, it would have saved me so much heartache and saved me so much struggle to do what she's saying her team walks you through, which is like this clarity, like pathway, which I loved that success pathway. And you're not behind, like you're right on time in this moment. It's the fact that her pathway actually pulls out of you that clarity. That's what actually gives every business owner the confidence that they need to be able to have the conviction to get up on social media. It's like, you see the people talking all over social media, they only have that conviction because they have the clarity. The only reason you lack it is because you don't have the clarity. So you bring in an advisor that can give you that clarity, and then you're off to the races. And so you're just like, you're one step away. And I always think about the illustration of like a Kleenex box. Like, we just have faith and trust that there's more Kleenex in the box, but you really don't know till you pull it. You have to pull it. So it's like taking that next step, saying your next yes, saying yes to Nicole or whatever it is, or this workshop or whatever your next yes is. You pull it and a new Kleenex follows. And that first pull is your first step of clarity. Nobody actually has clarity when they start. You only get clarity by continuing to pull the next Kleenex, and then it gives it to you. And you're like, oh my gosh, I'm looking back now, like I'm a little more clear. But no matter how much clarity you have, I'm sure Tammy still feels it. I'm sure Nicole still feels it. At times you still feel like that same imposter, like, oh gosh, I'm not as clear as I thought I was, or oh gosh, I'm going into this new client and now I don't feel clear anymore. Like, it always can get rocked, but you just can't, you can't let it. You're like, I'm just at the right place. I'm pulling the next Kleenex. I'm taking the next right step. And it's gonna, like Tammy said, I'm on my path. So I just want to encourage you, like, just don't look to the left or right at anybody else. You are on your path and you're in the right place. You're in the right room.
3 cheers for Jenny Ray. That's awesome. Somebody said the great analogy. Kleenex is a great analogy, Jenny. We're going to use that again. Thank you.
Well, I was going to say, Annie, comparison's a killer. So don't let comparison get you down, because all of us have a unique purpose and path, and it's all the right timing at the exact right time. So like Jenny just said, you are on your path. You are in the right time. You are in the right room. You wouldn't be here otherwise, period.
Amen. All right. Speaking of which, we got to go. You're in the right room, but we're 4 minutes over. So I hope you're going to join us tomorrow. You're going to meet Dina, the Dina that we've talked about. Dina is going to talk about her publishing strategy, and she's also going to talk about finding your greatness in you. And so we're going to continue this conversation tomorrow. If you're not a member of VIP, just go back to nicheleaders.com. So enroll again and join us in VIP. You'll get the worksheets. Oh, I should give you the homework. Here's your homework right here. I want you to just reflect on your past experiences and identify what drives you to make a difference moving forward. right? So do what Jenny Ray did, right? Start writing it out. Write out what's the struggle? How's it shape your mission today? If you're in the VIP and the worksheets, there's some additional questions that can help you with that. But it really is, what happened to me and why does that drive what I'm really interested in and how I can help other people? If you've got a trauma, by the way, totally no, we got clients, like I got an author right now. He literally, his passion is helping people fight the IRS. Like there was no trauma. He didn't get picked out by the IRS. Paul's like, ah, right? That is totally fine. And you're fortunate if you don't want to write anything related to your trauma, right? Or anything that related to a past, right? He just loves helping people battle the IRS and save their finances and their money. And so that is totally fine too. But today's theme was all about your inner journey. And it's totally fine just to make a lot of money with a great book. And we're going to just write a book that closes clients and grows your business. So that's good too. We like that too. All right. I'll see you tomorrow, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I appreciate it. If you want to share this, I'm going to post this on Facebook. So you can tag people that should have been here today that weren't. Tag them, tell them to watch this. Tell them they need to write a book too. I'd appreciate it. So it'll be on Facebook here in probably about an hour on my Facebook page. You can find me and friend me as well. Take care. Bye.